What if something is hiding in your dog's bowl that is building up in their system day after day, year after year, and actually making them sick? We want to talk about something that a lot of people may not think about that has, in just the last 5 years even, really come to the forefront and been a really big problem with dogs. And a lot of it goes back to the food. So we're going to give a list of symptoms, and if your dog is experiencing these things, it may be something for you to consider. So the list of symptoms that we're looking at is going to be lethargy, decreased appetite and vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss, increased drinking, and increased urination. Dr. Levy, what might this come from?
Currently, copper hepatopathy, or the accumulation of copper in dogs' livers, is turning into a bigger and bigger problem. This started probably about, we started hearing about it maybe 5 years ago or so. And so they started talking about it at veterinary conferences, and there were a lot of discussions about what was causing it, where's the excess copper coming from, and what can we do to treat it. And the main problem turns out to be kibble. Really, this is a dry food disease. So in previous years, AAFCO has changed the source of copper that they allowed in pet food. And then even more recently, they set a minimum amount. But although they've met several times since this started to really become a problem in about 2021, and they've met several times, but they've refused to set an upper limit for copper. And so there are some dog foods, and a lot of the premium brands, really nice, you're paying a lot of money for this dog foods that have way too much copper. And it could be like one of the things that we were just reading, so it could be that there are dogs who are genetically predisposed to accumulating copper in their livers, but really, yes, you have to be genetically predisposed to kind of everything that happens to you. So.
That's a reason they give a lot of the time.
Right, right. And so with elevated amounts of copper in the food, it basically accumulates in the liver if the dogs are unable to excrete it. And then it causes a lot of inflammation, and it can cause serious damage, irreversible damage, and scarring of the liver. Now, your liver has some regenerative capacity, but if you damage enough of it, you're not going to have enough functional liver to get by. And so currently, there's a couple of different solutions that I've seen. People talk about chelation, but I don't know anybody who's doing chelation therapy on dogs. There's a brand of dog food called Voyager that does not have any copper added. Like if you read through the vitamin mineral list, it has no added copper. But your body does need some copper in order to function. You have to have copper in the diet. And so, going to a no copper diet does not seem like the best solution. All the minerals are all the minerals in our body are in harmony with each other. They're all in balance with each other. So copper and zinc, calcium and phosphorus, all of those things have to work together nicely, especially in the electrical realm, because they all have an electrical charge. And so feeding a zero copper diet does not seem like a really good solution. And so if your dog has all these symptoms, and let's say you do blood work and the liver enzymes are elevated, the only way to diagnose this is by doing a liver biopsy, and then they'll run a special stain if copper hepatopathy is suspected, and they'll find copper responds to a specific stain, and so they will literally find loads of copper in the samples taken from the liver. So then at conferences where they talk about, what's the solution? What can we do? The one thing that they never suggest is stop feeding kibble, which would seem like the most obvious.
Which is what has the toxic levels of copper that would cause this in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So typically what they suggest is, we'll use one of the liver prescription diets. And then Royal Canin has already made their Labrador formula. They're the ones with the German Shepherd food and the Golden Retriever food.
Breed.
Yeah, so they made their Labrador food, they made that a low copper food. And so this doesn't only happen in Labrador retrievers, but so some people are using that proactively if they've done like the DNA testing and they found that their dog is predisposed to accumulating copper in the liver. We're going to link a list. There are foods that are higher in copper and lower in copper. And so if you are interested in moving towards a natural diet, feeding your dog yourself, which would be my suggestion, because that way you can just kind of get out of this whole loop of potentially continuing to feed your dog essentially a diet that is toxic to them. And you can choose foods that are lower in copper. Again, you want to have some copper in the diet because they need it. But you can, certainly adjust what you're feeding based on that. And that I think is the biggest thing to do. I have treated some of these dogs, so I talked to Standard Process and verified that the Standard Process canine hepatic support, their basic liver support supplement for dogs, it is made of animal organs, but it's animal organ extracts. And their supplements also, they don't contain muscle meat. So even if it's beef liver extract, it doesn't matter if the dog is allergic to beef, sensitive to beef, because there's no muscle meat in their supplements. And so I've used that successfully in dogs with copper hepatopathy. And then I would also use Standard Process AF beta food, which is one of their human supplements, just to help the gallbladder drain, to take some of the pressure from the gallbladder off of the liver. So if your gallbladder is accumulating sludge that it can't process, it's going to also kind of back up and impact the liver and make it inflamed and unhappy.
So, Dr. Levy, being that the copper toxicity, if that is the culprit in this, in a dog, and it does do a lot of damage to the liver, is that something that you would kind of supplement to support with Standard Process supplements as well?
Right. And so we were talking about this too, like essentially the liver is where copper tends to come from in the dog's diet. The copper that is being added to kibble is a synthetic copper. But because the liver and the kidney are kind of the higher copper organs, you can make a DIY diet yourself. And probably it's not actually that difficult. And just don't add liver and kidneys, but you could use the canine hepatic support to treat the inflammation in the dog's liver and to supply the liver with the nutrition that it needs. So really, we just have another good example as to why the idea of commercially made pet food is just not great. There's minimums for things, not necessarily maximums. And in this case, it's to a point where, it really can do a lot of damage to your dog, not to mention all the other things that we don't like about kibble. But this is, we're talking about a toxicity here. Right, this could really kill a dog. And then I've seen some cases even recently where the dog was on a high quality kibble, and then the owner says to the vet, what about a multivitamin? And the vet's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you add a multivitamin? So the dog is eating kibble, which is full of synthetic vitamins and minerals that are not natural to the body, that the body's going to have to deal with and process, and it's going to suck energy out of your dog to do that. And then the owner's giving a synthetic multivitamin.
On top of it.
Yeah, and so who knows how much you're getting combined of any one of those things. That is kind of over the top. And even there are some raw foods that add synthetic vitamins and minerals. So you have to become an ingredient reader again. Yep.
So we will put a little short list. There's a lot of commercially made pet food that has high levels of copper in it, but we will give some examples down below just in case it's something that stands out that maybe you fed your dog. And if these symptoms are sounding like something that you're experiencing, it really could be worth some looking into to make sure that that is not necessarily what you're dealing with. But it really, again, this is just one more thing where it shows how important it is to know what goes in your dog's bowl. You can't get copper toxicity really if you're feeding all fresh food because it's all kind of balanced over all of the different foods. It's completely bioavailable. It's not going to be synthetic. And so you really can just avoid the potential of this issue headed off at the pass by feeding a raw, fresh food diet from the beginning, which is another reason we always recommend that.
It's easier than you think.